because of our amount of time that we have. So there's an image that can be helpful in understanding how our minds work, and that's that there's two layers of our mind. There's the mind consciousness, which is the upper layer, and store consciousness, which is like the lower layer. It's kind of like the living room in the house and the basement. So in the basement are all the different potentials of mind states that we can have. We can have, you know, seed of anger, the seed of mindfulness, the seed of joy, the seed of generosity, the seed of jealousy, the seed of gratitude. We have many kinds of seeds, and all of us have all of those seeds. Nobody is exempt from any of those seeds. So as soon as a seed arises, so a strong emotion like fear or worry or anger or judgment, as soon as it arises, the first thing we want to do is bring up mindfulness. That's also down there in the basement. And mindfulness is our friend, and we want mindfulness to come up as often as we can during the day, so that it's strong and that muscle has been trained so that we're ready when a strong emotion comes to recognize it, to be there with it. So the first thing is to recognize. So we notice, oh, I'm feeling really tense. Oh, I'm really upset. And we want to have that ability to recognize what's going on. So mindfulness first recognizes, oh, okay, that's what's happening in the living room. And then the next thing is we want to accept it. So instead of pushing it away, we want to be able to say, yes, you're here. This is a very natural part of human experience. Painful emotions are what happens in a human mind, not that there's nothing wrong with me for feeling. We have a tendency to judge ourselves. That's often the first thing that arises, is judgment. When we feel pain, when we feel, you know, distress, sadness, the first thing that tends to come up is, no, I don't want that, right? So we have to work against that. So mindfulness is able to be there and not be disturbed by this emotion. Mindfulness can say yes to it, because mindfulness doesn't care what it's mindful of. Mindfulness doesn't have a preference. Mindfulness doesn't say, no, I want only the positive emotions to be aware of. Mindfulness will be aware of anything, whether it's painful, whether it's positive, pleasant. So mindfulness, first of all, recognizes, and then it accepts. Okay, sadness is here. Anger is here. Hatred is here. Rage is here. Whatever it is, as intense as it may be, mindfulness says, yes, it's okay that you're here. So it's very different from saying, I give my rage full chance to do any kind of harm it wants to do to anybody. That's not what saying accepting our emotion is. Accepting our emotion is saying, I'm not going to fight you because I know that's just going to make the suffering worse. So it's just like if you think of a 2-year-old child that comes to you crying, your human instinct is to comfort that child, to put your arm around the child, to care for it. And so mindfulness sees any suffering like that. Mindfulness has the capacity to see even our most, scary rage, or even our darkest thoughts as a crying child. Mindfulness does not judge. So mindfulness accepts, okay, yes, this is here. And then mindfulness embraces. That's the third step. So first we recognize, then we accept, then we embrace. So mindfulness says, come here, I want to be with you. I'm here for you. If mindfulness has the robustness of our practice behind it, mindfulness says, no matter how strong you are, I have the capacity to be here with you, to take care of you, to hold you. Because you know what happens to a child that's crying when it gets held. Any baby, a human of most any age, we're creatures that need holding. And when we're upset, when we get held, we feel calmed, we feel soothed. So mindfulness knows that, and mindfulness says, I'm here to embrace you. I'll take good care of you. So we can talk to our emotions in our meditation, in our walking mindfully, sitting mindfully, even, walking to work mindfully or sitting at our desks doing our work. We can breathe in and say, oh, my dear Shane, I'm here for you. I'm holding you. Breathing out, I'm going to take good care of you. I'm going to just be here with you, not push you away. I care about you. I know this is suffering here. This is not something that I need to judge. I can just take care of it. So that's the third step. And then naturally, that emotion is going to shift when it's in the presence of acceptance, embracing, compassion, care. So that emotion then begins to relax a little, and then we can look deeply. That's the fourth step. We can begin to understand, oh, what is this about? What is this? A wonderful question to ask our emotions is, what does this have to teach me? What does this want me to know? And so as we relax with our suffering, with our fear, with our worry, with our judgment, we can ask it, each emotion is an ambassador to bringing a very deep wisdom to us. So we can ask it, what would you like me to understand? So we can rest with it. It starts to reveal itself to us. So we can see, oh, you're made up of this. Maybe this habit energy from when I was young, or something I learned from the people that raised me, or, oh, maybe I haven't gotten enough sleep. I haven't eaten properly, and that's why I'm so irritable. Or, it's just understanding, like beginning to understand what this emotion really wants us to know about ourselves, because it's a kind of SOS call for help. And so we get to understand it, we get to respond to what's really there, what's really the root of this emotion. And the last part of this fifth step is transformation, which isn't something we make or do. It just happens when we see clearly to the root of our emotions. We're able to be free of them. And this sense of space, when we really understand their message, they're no longer, having to cry out to get our attention, because they have our listening ear. So then they can tell us what they need to tell us, and then they move on their way. And then they're no longer holding us imprisoned. So when we understand something at its root, it transforms. It no longer has the same charge. And it may be that we do this process many times, and each time it gets slightly less charged. It doesn't just happen overnight for a lot of strong habitual emotions, but it can become something that really is a friend that we learn and grow with, and no longer causes great suffering to us. So even with things like depression, there's been studies that have shown that mindfulness is as effective, sometimes even more effective than medication. So it's this process of getting to understand what's at the root of that deep sadness, that despair, that pain. And when we understand that at the root, it just doesn't arise in the same way. It doesn't have the same hold on us because we've seen it clearly, right? And it could still come up in less intense ways, but it doesn't take us over in the same way. And that's what research has shown with people with depression who practice like an 8-week mindfulness course. They are less likely to fall back into depression than those who don't practice mindfulness. So this is a process that we can use in our practice to recognize our strong emotions, accept them, embrace them, look deeply into them, and we experience transformation. So we want to have time for questions and answers. So I'll stop there, and we invite you to write your questions in the chat. for both Praveen and I will both answer. And we're happy to hear.
Kaira, there's a request for clarification on the fourth step.
Yes, the fourth step is to look deeply. Thanks for taking those notes, Fabio. So someone's asking, do you offer any mindfulness courses or have recommendations? Praveen, do you want to answer?
Yes, so Kaira has a incredible course with the same title on the Insight Timer app. I would encourage everyone to look that up. I believe it's a free course, and
it's the first day is free, but you have to have a subscription to have the whole course, or you can pay $20 and get the whole course without a subscription.
And there's Resilience Within is planning to offer some more in-depth workshops. So stay tuned for emails on that. I think we're open to offering workshops on as needed basis. So yeah, I think there's a lot of amazing tools out there right now. The Plum Village website has daily meditations, live stream meditations. There's also the apps out there, Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer. They all offer amazing meditations. I'm also working on an 8-week program, a book for that program. So hopefully I can share that with you guys soon. But there's a lot of great workshops out there.
And so I'll address a question that asks if this is a version of the RAIN practice. So RAIN is a teaching from Tara Brach and Michelle McDonald and different teachers. It's very similar. And the one I shared with you comes from Thich Nhat Hanh. It's his teaching on how we take care of strong emotions. And it is very similar. They both came up with these separately, but the RAIN stands for recognize, allow, investigate. So you've got the recognize and accept and embrace is like allow. Investigate is like looking deeply. And the N is nurture or non-identification. So that's a slightly different, a final step. But yeah, very similar.
So there's a question from Sneh. Hi, Sneh. Saying, how do you suggest we build this into our day-to-day practice to make mindfulness a habit? That's a great question. So, there's a lot of formal practices that we talk about, sitting meditation, walking meditation. But at the end of the day, mindfulness is something that we really, should be doing all day long, right? So first thing when you wake up, you can already set an intention for the day, right? Before you get out of the bed. As you walk to the bathroom, you can practice mindful walking. So bring your awareness to your steps. And then as you're brushing your teeth, you can pay attention to the movements of your hands and the toothbrush around your mouth. As you sit down to eat breakfast, you can take a few seconds to just be aware of just the fact that so many people have worked hard to get the food to our tables, some gratitude there. And then again, as you start to eat, you can pay attention to the sensations in your tongue, the movements of your mouth. And so in this form, you can really integrate it throughout the day. It's really about coming back to the present moment and paying attention to what is happening in that moment. So whether you're walking or sitting, talking, you can always bring the energy of mindfulness to that moment.
And I'll answer the question about when an emotion is so unbearable, how do you work with it when you don't want to go near it? Thank you for that question, Tricia. I guess one question I have for myself is what makes an emotion become unbearable? So we need to ask ourselves, like, what causes these things to happen so that we can know how to not allow them to become so unbearable. One thing I think is part of the problem is that we try to suppress our feelings, and we often use things to suppress that actually make the feelings grow bigger, but they are down under in the basement, so we're not aware. But when we, feel lonely and we go take, take intoxicants or do something that's coming from an obsessive or compulsive place to not feel the loneliness. If we call someone or read something or consume news constantly, that actually it soothes, it sort of takes our attention away from the loneliness temporarily, but the loneliness is still down there in the basement, and it's even more upset because it couldn't get the attention and the care that it needed. So the next time it arises, it's more intense, it stays longer, and it comes up faster. So we have to be really careful with how we deal with our strong emotions so that we don't make them become unbearable by suppressing them. But when they're here, we can do still something to take care of them. And it may be that it's not turning directly to them, but doing something that brings calm to the system so that we have the resources to then hold them, right? So it may be that going for a walk to calm ourselves down, or doing some deep breathing practices. Belly breathing can be very helpful when we're in an unbearable situation. It's like we see ourselves as like a tree in a storm, and if we stay at the top of the tree, the branches are going back and forth very violently, but if we come down and look at the trunk of the tree is very stable. So our belly is the trunk of the tree, our mind is the top branches of the tree. So we don't want to stay in all the thoughts of that emotion, because that's what's going to keep us blowing about and make it even more unbearable. We bring our attention down to the belly, like Praveen guided us at the beginning of the call. We just feel the breath in the belly. We just feel the belly rising and falling, rising and falling. We become very centered in the present moment, and that can help us to make it through a really difficult emotional storm and calm down enough that we can, at some point later, begin to understand and take care of that emotion. But we need to ride out the storm safely. So some kind of practice to just bring calm to the system can really help. Praveen, do you think we take another question, or should we go into the final practice of loving kindness?
There is one question that I think we could answer. This is a question that probably needs an elaborate response, but we'll just try to tackle it as quickly as we can today. It says, would nihilist thoughts seep in when practicing mindfulness? And should it be counted by mindfulness itself? So I think the answer to that very simply is, our job, as I said earlier, is to really be like a scientist in a lab. We just note everything that's coming up, all kinds of thoughts come up in us. And our job is just to note it and say, that's interesting that I'm thinking. Okay, noted. And so if thoughts of nihilism arise, it's the same approach. Your job is to really give it the attention that it's requiring, and to do it so non-judgmentally. If you notice yourself thinking, oh, I shouldn't be thinking this, again, bring your awareness to that thought. So that already you transform, the energy of mindfulness transforms our thoughts and mind in that form. So it's a very deep question, but hopefully provided some insight there.
Thank you, Praveen. So we wanted to close by inviting us to be aware of someone that we care about, that we'd like to send loving kindness to. And this could be ourselves. It may be that you really need our care and kindness right now, but it may also be that we want to think of someone maybe that's going through a difficult time, or just someone that we really care a lot about, and we'd like to offer them kindness and good wishes, friendly wishes. So just let you all take a moment to think of someone, and if it's yourself, just think of what it is that you care about in yourself that you'd like to bring a lot of care and kindness and friendliness to, something you for yourself, or some person that you are feeling really grateful is in your life right now, that you're caring a lot about. And we want to teach you a song, a song that helps us to connect with the deep practice of caring and growing our hearts, this sense of friendliness. And they're the classic phrases of loving kindness, or metta, you might have heard it referred to as, or maitri. So the words are just, may I be happy, may I be free from pain and suffering, may I live with peace and well-being, and may I be free. So I'll teach you that line by line, and then we'll sing it. May you be happy, may we be happy. Okay, and as we sing it to ourselves, we'll wish ourselves happiness. When we sing it, singing you, we'll wish others to be happy. The person we brought to mind, may you, and when we sing we, we'll think of everyone here and beyond, wishing all of us to be well. So I'll sing a line, and then you can repeat. If you're around other people and you're shy, then you can sing it in your mind, but otherwise let yourself really vocalize it if you're comfortable doing so. May I be happy. Try. May I be happy. Second line. May I be free from pain and suffering. Try. May I be free from pain and suffering. May I live with peace and well-being. Try. May I live with peace and well-being. And may I be free. Last line again. And may I be free. So this is from Sister Ocean, Sister Hai-an. So let's try all the 4 lines together, and maybe someone can type them in the chat so we can sing them more easily. May I be happy. May I be free from pain and suffering. May I live with peace and well-being. And may I be free. And we'll sing, may you. So next line is, may I live with peace and well-being. And may I be free is the last line. Thank you, Sahan. Okay, so then we'll sing May You. May you be happy, thinking of your person. May you be free from pain and suffering. May you live with peace and well-being, and may you be free. And now we sing We. May we be happy, all of us. May we be free from pain and suffering. May we live with peace and well-being, and may we be free. And may all be free.
Right.
Thank you for trying that with us.
Thank you so much, Kaira. And thank you, all of you, for joining us today. We are going to wrap up for today. If you have any comments or questions, please keep sending questions in. And we hope to be with you soon again. Thank you so much.
And we're putting how to stay in touch with us in the chat. I have a website, kairajewel.com. I send out a regular newsletter, which you can sign up for on my website. Resilience Within has upcoming website workshops, and we'll be in touch with you about that. And we'll also be sending you a recording of this call and resources and how to stay in touch with Resilience Within afterward. And Praveen has put in his email into the chat so you can stay in touch with him as well. And then there's the website for Resilience Within. And we'd love to hear from you about any topics you'd like us to cover in future teachings. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Praveen.
Thanks, Kaira.